Women protested inside of Iowa's Senate building as a controversial abortion ban law was being debated. They chanted, among other things, "We're not your breeders," which is a powerful message. And unfortunately, they found out that apparently, according to the Republicans in Iowa, yes, they are, because that passed. That effective abortion ban has passed. Now, the game that we're supposed to play here is that it's not a ban. It's a 6-week restriction. It's a 6-week limitation. I'm done playing that game. It's a ban. It's a ban with a little bit of like crepe paper over it to obscure what it actually is. They chose 6 weeks because they believe that that will ban nearly 100% of all abortions. Many women and people who can get pregnant obviously won't even know at that point that they are. It's designed to make it, particularly for people without the resources to get out of the state or to get to a place to actually do it, to possibly stay for 2 days, to get off of work. It's a ban, that's what it is. I'm not in the doing Republican PR business. In Iowa, effectively, abortion has now been banned with some very minor loopholes that aren't worth the paper they're printed on. For example, all are banned at the first sign of cardiac activity. That is a thing that they throw into these as if there is some sort of obvious moral weight to that is never actually defined by them. You're just supposed to believe that that means something significant and then just allow them to strip away your rights. Okay. Anyway, there are some exceptions for cases of rape or incest. It will allow for abortions up until 20 weeks of pregnancy, only under certain conditions of medical emergency. Abortions in the state were previously allowed up to 20 weeks. It was already very restrictive. And so now you have these loopholes. So up to 20 weeks, certain types of medical emergencies. Sorry, if a doctor is willing to potentially be prosecuted and will actually go along with it. We already know in many states that have these sorts of loopholes, they don't. They're terrified of being sued into existence or possibly locked up, so it's not actually worth a damn. And after 20 weeks, even if they believe that you're likely to die, they won't do anything about it. And then of course, there's the exceptions for cases of rape or incest, as if that's some sort of automatic thing. Understand in practice how that works. Who you will have to convince, what evidence you will have to present, the massive trauma on top of trauma that desperately trying to fit through that loophole will foist on top of you. That's what they have done. That's the consideration that they've given to people who can get pregnant in that state.
Absolutely.
Francesca, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely bad faith, and we know that. And every Republican should be asked about those loopholes in terms of rape and incest and how they would advise, let's say, a minor, right? If it's incest, likely a minor, to go about proving their case. How would they get to the courthouse to actually prove that case? Whose credit card would they use for the Uber to get to the court? Like how, and this is again, the danger with this also bizarre obsession with parental rights, right? Is the idea that all parents are perfect and wonderful and great. And no, you literally have this carve out around incest, and the person would have to go through their very abuser to even prove that. It means nothing, obviously. But actually what it means in practice is that women are going to die. Women who don't want to be parents, women who do want to be parents will die. And all people who can get pregnant will die, all right? I have a friend who recently had a miscarriage, right? There was not a heartbeat, but a pulsing of electrons of cells, right? Which in Republicans' book, few cells, that's considered a heartbeat, right? Well, she wanted to be a mom, she had a miscarriage, and according to Iowa and so many red states, she would have to bleed out in her car and wait until she was literally like on death's door and her vitals were tanking before she could get the necessary procedure, a D&E, to help her actually pass that cluster of cells without dying. Like straight up, the trauma that you are putting people through is just unimaginable. And I want everyone to understand, whether you can get pregnant, whether you can't get pregnant, just how terrible it is, just how much your body already goes through in pregnancy alone, I could tell you. But then on a pregnancy that you don't even want, or on a pregnancy that you want, but my God, how sad for you that you are having this miscarriage and the state says that you cannot have that miscarriage in dignity, it's a human rights abuse. I mean, straight up, I'm like, if we hadn't decimated the role of the United Nations, who do we go to, people?
Exactly.
Can somebody coup our nation? Can we do to Afghanistan? Like, can we be done what we did to Afghanistan be done to us to quote unquote save the women?
Yeah, I really have come to hate the fact that they can fool some people with these like loopholes or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't work for most people, by the way. Most people hate this. I'm gonna give you the poll results in just a sec. But by the way, I did have an idea though. So it's their strongly held religious belief that this is what the law should be or whatever. Or isn't it weird how it's always the strongly held religious belief is that it should be as restrictive as the Supreme Court will allow it to be at that point, and then as soon as it can be more restrictive, it will be. It's weird how their strongly held religious belief changes. Well, how about this? Okay, we will have an opening where if there's incest or rape, then there's an exception for that. And the qualification for that will be your strongly held belief. And that's it. You don't have to tell anyone. You just have to have the strongly held belief in your head. That has been elevated by the Supreme Court to being more important than moral considerations or precedent or law. So let's do that in this case. If you believe just to yourself, you don't have to say it, you don't have to write it down, you don't have to file any paperwork. If you believe that that's what it is, then there's an exception. At least be consistent in that way. Speaking of consistency, Governor Kim Reynolds, who I hear from Donald Trump is just the worst, said the Iowa Supreme Court questioned whether this legislature would pass the same law they did in 2018. In 2019, a law like this was knocked down. I have an idea of how the Supreme Court will adjudicate it now. And today they have a clear answer. The voices of Iowans and their democratically elected representatives cannot be ignored any longer, and justice for the unborn should not be delayed. It's nonsense that implies that you care about people's life. The voices of Iowans. Oh, I don't live in Iowa. It's possible it's more right wing than I thought. I guess this is just her doing what they have been demanding. They've been calling out for it, and never will the government listen to them. 61% of Iowa adults say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Only 35% say that it should be illegal in most or all cases. More than 2/3 of Iowa women, 70% say it should be legal in most or all cases. Which voices exactly, Kim Reynolds? Again, she doesn't care. She didn't look because she doesn't care. She's not interested in what those people believe. She thinks she needs to deliver this so she could be the VP someday or the president or whatever. And if a bunch of people have to bleed to death along the way, that is a cost that Kim Reynolds is willing to have them pay for her political aspirations.
Absolutely.
Final thoughts.
Kim Reynolds and her family and everyone else in power, they have the ticket out, which is money, right? Yep. You can afford a flight to a different state to get an abortion. You can afford the actual costs of the procedure. You can afford to pay, let's say, hey, a family doctor to come to your home and give you that procedure in discretion and with lots of care. Like, again, and this is, I think, what we need to remember. It's John. I think it's jumped the shark on the religion thing. Like, it's the year 2023, man. Nobody's buying that it's about religion. It's not about their morally held beliefs, because what is happening around this country is deeply amoral, right? It is deeply amoral to require children to carry babies to term. I don't care what the circumstance is, right? All of these things are deeply immoral. It's about power, and now the mask is off. The rich say there are different rules that apply to me than apply to you. The powerful say there are different rules that I live by than that you have to live by, right? That's why you have Peter Thiel, who funds anti-gay causes even though he himself is gay. And Kim Reynolds, who she's a woman, ostensibly has a uterus. Like, no, it doesn't matter. She's got a golden clad uterus. She can do whatever she wants with that thing, but yours, no, that's hers. That belongs to the state.
Yeah, no, like you said, those with money are always gonna be able to go to a place that has the laws that they pretend to be opposed to. They're always going to be safe. It's regular people that are going to suffer. Regular people are gonna die. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.